Stop scrolling now, seriously, because what just happened in the UK is anything but ordinary. A song called Apt suddenly exploded, the UK charts were rocked, and two big names, Bruno Mars and ROSÉ, quietly made history. But the question is this just a big hit or the start of something much crazier? Before we dive in, make sure you like this video, comment your theories, and subscribe to the Bruno Mars channel right now, because the little details we're about to discuss could change the way you view this collaboration forever. Ready? Because what happens next, no one saw it coming. It started without a warning. No countdown clock, no dramatic announcement, no loud headlines screaming for attention. And yet somewhere between late-night radio rotations and silent playlist updates, something shifted inside the UK charts. A song that many thought was just another collaboration suddenly refused to behave like one. Apt didn't climb politely, it didn't knock and wait. It forced its way in, unsettling expectations, confusing analysts, and igniting a storm of whispers across the global music industry. Because when Bruno Mars and ROSÉ appeared together on the same track, the world expected quality. What it did not expect was this. The UK, a market famously resistant to outside domination, especially from artists crossing genre and cultural borders, began reacting in a way that felt different. Streams surged at strange hours. Radio spins increased without the usual promotional push. Search trends spiked in patterns that didn't match traditional release behavior. And then came the chart movement, sharp, undeniable, impossible to ignore. Was it organic, was it strategic, or was something else happening beneath the surface? For days, fans argued over screenshots. Some claimed Apt was outperforming tracks backed by massive label machinery. Others noticed how the song seemed to travel not just through pop audiences but through R&B listeners, K-pop fans, casual radio listeners, and even demographics that rarely overlap. The song wasn't just being heard, it was being shared, dissected, felt. And that's when the questions began. Why the UK? Why now? And why did this collaboration hit harder than anyone predicted? To understand the shockwave, you have to understand the silence that came before it. Bruno Mars is no stranger to global dominance. His relationship with the UK charts has always been strong, built on years of trust, radio love, and undeniable musical credibility. ROSÉ, on the other hand, represents something newer, more volatile, and arguably more dangerous to old industry rules. She doesn't just bring fans, she brings movement. She brings an audience trained to listen deeply, promote aggressively, and react emotionally. When those two energies collided in Apt, the result wasn't explosive in the usual sense, it was slow-burn chaos. The song crept into conversations before it stormed into rankings. Listeners described it as unexpectedly addictive. Critics struggled to categorize it cleanly. Was it pop? Was it R&B? Was it alternative? Or was it something deliberately blurry designed to slip through genre walls unnoticed? As days passed, UK chart watchers noticed something unsettling. Apt wasn't dropping after its initial surge, it was stabilizing. Worse, for competing tracks, it was gaining momentum. That's when the phrase started circulating in fan spaces and industry group chats alike, "This doesn't look normal." History, after all, usually announces itself loudly, this one whispered. Behind the scenes, speculation ran wild. Some pointed to the emotional restraint of the song, arguing that its minimalism made it universally relatable. Others focused on the lyrical intimacy, the way Bruno's seasoned smoothness intertwined with ROSÉ's raw vulnerability, creating a contrast that felt both timeless and modern. And then there were those who noticed the timing. How the song landed during a moment when UK audiences seemed hungry for authenticity rather than spectacle. But charts don't move on emotion alone, they move on behavior. In UK listener behavior around Apt broke patterns. Repeat streams climbed instead of falling. Listener retention stayed unusually high. The song wasn't just being consumed, it was being returned to again and again, late at night during commutes, in quiet moments that charts rarely capture but always reward. Suddenly, headlines began catching up. Industry commentators started using words like historic, unprecedented, and game-changing, but fans had already moved ahead of them, asking bigger questions. Did Apt just prove that collaborations between Western pop icons and K-pop artists no longer need to be labeled or justified? Did Bruno Mars and ROSÉ just quietly rewrite the rulebook without asking permission? And perhaps the most dangerous question of all, was this only the beginning? Because once a door opens in the UK market, it doesn't close easily. As more data emerged, comparisons began surfacing. Other high-profile collaborations had tried and failed to achieve this level of cross-market stability. Some debuted high and vanished. Others relied on heavy promotion to maintain relevance. Apt did neither, it simply stayed like it belonged there. Fans noticed radio hosts subtly changing their tone. Early introductions sounded cautious. Later ones sounded impressed. By the end of the week, the song was being spoken about not as a novelty but as a fixture. And ROSÉ's presence in this equation couldn't be ignored. For years, skeptics questioned whether K-pop soloists could truly integrate into Western charts without losing their identity. Apt didn't dilute ROSÉ, it amplified her. Her voice carried a fragility that contrasted sharply with Bruno's confidence, creating a dynamic that felt almost cinematic. Listeners weren't just hearing a duet, they were hearing a conversation. That emotional narrative became fuel. Edits flooded social media. UK fans posted reactions filled with disbelief. Some admitted they hadn't planned to like the song. Others confessed it had grown on them in ways they couldn't explain. That kind of language matters. It signals a shift from hype to attachment. And attachment is what turns hits into history. As the UK chart positions solidified, industry insiders began hinting at something more. Quiet meetings, increased interest from radio programmers, whispers about award eligibility, year-end placements, and long-term impact. Nothing confirmed, but enough to make people lean closer. Because when a song behaves like this, it rarely exists in isolation. Was a live performance coming? Would there be a remix? Or was the strategy to let the song breathe, letting the UK audience claim it as their own? Bruno Mars, famously selective with his public commentary, remained calm. ROSÉ, equally controlled, offered no dramatic celebration, and that restraint only intensified the mystery. If this was such a massive moment, why weren't they shouting about it? Some fans believe that silence is the loudest signal of all. The longer Apt stayed strong, the more it felt like a test case, a proof of concept, evidence that the global music landscape has shifted permanently, that borders no longer decide hits, listeners do. And the UK just made its choice. As debates raged online, one theory gained traction. Apt succeeded because it didn't try to conquer the UK, it respected it. It arrived without forcing identity, without over-explaining itself, trusting the audience to feel first and analyze later. That trust was rewarded. By the time casual listeners realized how big the song had become, it was already too late to stop the narrative. Apt wasn't just charting, it was cementing. Now the question everyone is afraid to ask out loud hangs in the air. If this is what happens when Bruno Mars and ROSÉ casually collaborate, what happens if they decide to go further? A joint performance, a full project, a tour moment that no one is ready for? Or did Apt just crack open a door that other artists watching closely are about to rush through? Because history doesn't always announce itself with fireworks. Sometimes it slips into the charts quietly, settles into your headphones, and waits for you to realize everything has changed. So here's the question that fans can't stop arguing about, and the industry refuses to answer. Did Apt just become a once-in-a-generation crossover moment, or is this the first signal of a much bigger takeover that the UK and the world are completely unprepared for? Backhand index pointing down. Now it's your turn. Is Apt a lucky explosion or the start of a new global era led by Bruno Mars and ROSÉ? Drop your theory in the comments and let the debate begin. Collision.